Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and we just got some fantastic news in regards to Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Nintendo just hinted at the release timing for this game, and spoiler alert, the game is not getting delayed to 2026 it looks like. So, despite all the doom-mongering on the internet, what it would have you to believe, this game does appear to still be making it out in this year, and there does seem to be a suggestion here that Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is going to be a big holiday release, which then has me wondering about just how much Nintendo is going to be pushing this game, and just how big of a deal it actually is, which is what I want to speak more on today. But first, let's explain the entire context of this situation, then I will get into the news, where Nintendo has hinted at their release timing for Prime 4, and then I'll dive into this overall implication of how big this game actually is going to be, as perhaps one of Nintendo's huge holiday releases. So the context is this: we've been waiting such a long time for Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, announced in summer 2017, announced to be restarted, delayed in early 2019, and Nintendo was extremely quiet in the game for many years, outside of some recent Retro Studios updates to their website and job hiring posts, until summer of 2024 in a June Nintendo Direct, where Nintendo finally showed off Metroid Prime 4 as the closer for one of the best directs they've had in many years. And throughout all of Nintendo's financial briefings and explanatory material, they've been continually saying throughout this year, 2025, Prime 4 has been featured as a part of Switch 2's marketing. It's been in different advertisements, it's been rated in a few different regions, suggesting that it is close to completion. And in regards to being part of the marketing, this suggests that Nintendo wants it to be featured as part of that early wave of Switch 2. And we've gone this far into the year and there's been no word of official delay of Prime 4. However, Nintendo has also been very quiet about what they are doing for the second half of the year, and it's leading many people to grow concerned. When you consider the state of the industry, so many different companies laying off employees, so many different games getting cancelled and delayed, so many different studios being shut down, I can understand where some people who are unfamiliar with the situation at Nintendo would start to grow concerned, especially when you look at how long it's taken Metroid Prime 4 to come out. But at least, fortunately for Nintendo, they have not been a part of these industry-wide struggles. They've had great retention rates, minimal public cancelizations, and minimal delays. Nintendo is doing pretty well, always announcing different historical records being broken in terms of sales every few months, it seems, over this last whole generation of Switch, and now even in the beginning of Switch 2. Switch 2 is off to a fantastic start. But unfortunately, this is not how the internet works. If some people see some form of possible negativity, somebody, somewhere is going to take that and run with it, and believe that despite much evidence to the contrary. We even have friend of the channel, Reese Kiwi Talks Riley, who we've talked about before. He has his own YouTube channel. He interviews different game developers, so people understand him to have industry contacts, and so he has said some things about Metroid Prime 4 over these last few months, and now he's pulling back because it looks like whatever he says gets construed into something negative. We talked about a couple days ago how he put out a long post explaining the Metroid Prime 4 Beyond situation, saying how maybe the reason why they haven't announced a release date yet has something to do with the fact that they're still ironing out all the details, but this anomaly is not that big of a deal, and he still expects the game to come out this year. And so as you see here, Kiwi Talks is talking about, there are already different sites talking about his post and construing it to him saying that the game is likely to get delayed to 2026. That is not what he was saying. He was simply trying to explain to people so they could understand why Nintendo has been so quiet about Prime 4's release date up to this point. But as that post did also suggest, yes, Nintendo has said something to alleviate the concerns for everyone when it comes to Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. So here, this is an official Nintendo page, here, Nintendo Switch 2 Cross Fan Expo Canada. Fan Expo Canada attendees will have access to play the latest and upcoming titles on Nintendo Switch 2. Nintendo of Canada is inviting you to visit the Fan Expo Canada in Toronto, Ontario, to check out the latest and upcoming games for the Nintendo Switch 2 system. Bring your friends and family to experience games like Mario Kart World and the newly released Donkey Kong Bonanza. Fan Expo attendees will be able to play upcoming games like Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, available later in 2025, Guests will also be able to play Nintendo's partner titles such as Street Fighter 6, 1-2 Fighters Edition, and upcoming games Hades 2, Borderlands 4, and Elden Ring Tarnished Edition. And that's all I really need to read here. The biggest obvious point is that they say here, it's the only game they speak on in terms of release timing, available later in 2025. It's a very curious choice of words here to specify this. Now, obviously Mario Kart World and Bonanza have already come out, but they also talk about these partner titles and don't bring up release timing whatsoever. But in regards to Prime 4, they make sure to highlight available later in 2025. So this is another method, another way, another time Nintendo has reiterated that Metroid Prime 4 is coming out this year. But the fact that this post has come out and is talking about an event that's happening later in August, it does come with an implication that Prime 4 is probably coming out after August, and given that we haven't been given a release date yet for such a big game, probably not coming out in September either. And so with Nintendo saying later into 2025, that pretty much positions Prime 4 to be one of Nintendo's holiday hitters. And we've talked about how the Metroid Prime art book was delayed to late October, October 28th. It was initially supposed to come out June 24th of this year. And that does have us thinking that they had a particular plan. Maybe at one point Prime 4 was meant to be a launch window title like maybe July, and now it's being pushed back to the holidays. But Nintendo is positioning this as a big release regardless, and it may be coming out, if not late October alongside the art book, in November just a few weeks later. The thick of the holiday season. The 2 months in the year where Nintendo goes all out, where they put up their most published titles, is October and November. And so it's looking like one of these 2 months is when Metroid Prime 4 is going to come out. If you account for Pokemon Legends ZA, that also has us leaning a little bit later into October or November. And what's so interesting about this situation is that Nintendo is being very quiet. It's leading to a lot of frustrations by fans. I'm sure for the mainstream audience, this is not really a big deal. This is more so something that impacts people like us that are paying attention to news on the daily. But once Nintendo finally decides to start actually telling us about what their actual plan is for this holiday season, Metroid Prime 4 looks to be a big part of that. Not a small part of that, not delayed to 2026, but a big part of that. And that's the part that has me most excited here. I think we probably should look at Metroid Prime 4 similar to how Nintendo has treated Donkey Kong Bonanza. They are going to push these games in a similar fashion. They are both big releases. They're both likely going to be Nintendo's 2 best chances to have a Game of the Year title. And both games are meant to revitalize their respective franchises. They're both meant to bring these series back to relevance. And so I'm still playing through Donkey Kong Bonanza, but this game is huge. I think it is bigger than Super Mario Odyssey, which is already a huge game. I'm talking about literally like how long it takes you to play through the game and do everything. And what's interesting here is that with Donkey Kong Bonanza, most of what we understood of the game were based off the first 2 areas of the game, Ingot Isle and the Lagoon Lair. For Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, it's been similar. We've only seen the first 2 areas of the game. The opening first few minutes and then the beginning area of Vuros. And so Nintendo really has barely told us that much about this game. There's still so much more to share. We have no idea what that giant desert is all about in the art for Metroid Prime 4. I have speculated that this may be a vast area to explore. No, I am not saying the game is open world, but I do expect there to be some large, vast areas that we can explore and do some cool things in them. And we have no idea what that red suit is about or anything else. There's still so much about this game Nintendo has not told us. And with this game seemingly being positioned to be a big holiday release, and with how much investment has gone to this game over the years, I gotta think Nintendo's going to go big with this game. And there's gonna be so much to see, so much to show. As a longtime Metroid fan, I am itching to see that blowout. And I know so many people are so disheartened right now because Nintendo hasn't told us about these games, but they're a business. They have to continue to operate. They will make these announcements. Maybe they won't do it in the way we expect them to do, like they do in prior years in the thick of the summer. They're waiting maybe towards later summer. But these announcements will come in whatever form Nintendo decides to put them out there. I hope in a direct, because that's the most exciting way for them to do it, but we shall see. Main point here is that we have plenty of reason to think that Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is not being delayed to 2026. It is indeed coming out this year. It's simply a game that is coming out later into the year, probably in either October or November. It's going to be one of Nintendo's bigger holiday titles that they will be pushing. It's going to be an exceptional, awesome, good game, a big deal. And Nintendo's overall quietness here doesn't just have to do with Prime 4, but just in general, because there's other things we haven't gotten release dates for, like Kirby Air Riders. We don't even have gameplay for that, and that's supposed to come out this year, and it's recently been rated. Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, we just got another trailer of in the partner showcase, and still even then, they didn't give us a release date for this game. So not revealing the exact date is not a Metroid Prime 4 exclusive issue. It's just how Nintendo's choosing to operate for their announcements this year. They're waiting longer. Why? Who knows? But when they finally make the announcement, it's gonna happen, and there'll probably still be plenty of time for them to market their games, and everything's going to be just fine. And we'll be enjoying Metroid Prime 4 the same way we're enjoying Donkey Kong Bonanza now. I do actually want to consider one more angle here though, and that's how Nintendo's going to go about marketing this game once they do finally decide to start divulging details about this game. We look at Metroid Dread. Metroid Dread came out back in 2021. Metroid Dread is a 2D Metroid game, not a 3D first-person adventure Metroid game, so they are very different, and the scope of Prime 4, we assume, is much grander. But even with Dread had a lot of marketing push. They definitely made sure to feature it during the Summer Direct at the time, during the Treehouse. They had a developer interview with Yoshio Sakamoto. They had the Dread reports, and they heavily marketed Metroid Dread from June when it was shown off to its release in October of that year. And so looking at things now, what's interesting about this is that we look at Prime 4. Prime 4 is a grander game. You would think they'd want to push it even harder. And yet here we are, and it's August already. And we still don't have a release date, and we don't know when exactly they're going to start to give this big push. But something to consider here is that with Metroid Dread, they had shown it off for the first time in June. It was a very quick turnaround from June to October. We've known about Prime 4 for a while. You can argue they've already been marketing Prime 4 for some time. They showed us the trailer back in June of last year. We saw more of it in a Direct earlier this year. Then there was a Switch 2 Direct where we saw even more. And then we saw the Treehouse where we saw even more. And it has been a part of Switch 2 marketing. Not as much as Mario Kart or Donkey Kong Bonanza, which makes sense because it's not coming on the first couple months of the system, but it has been a part of the overall marketing. And so I'm not going to go so far as to say that Nintendo for sure was pushing Dread way better than they're pushing Prime 4. No, they've been pushing Prime 4, it's just been more spread out, and we really haven't hit that point where it's full-on focused on just Prime 4. That period of time is not going to be 3 months, that period of time is going to be shorter. And let's assume we just get a general direct a few weeks from now, and in there they finally do give us the release date and a new trailer for Prime 4 showing us a lot more. There's going to be other things in this presentation that they're going to need to focus on, so even then Prime 4 is not necessarily going to have this huge marketing push from that point. Other games are going to need to be pushed. But I do expect that it's going to elevate significantly in terms of the conversation regarding Prime 4. They will start to show more, and maybe they'll even announce a Metroid Prime 4 Direct. I still think there's a really good chance of that. We got a Mario Kart World Direct, we got a Donkey Kong Bonanza Direct. This is the launch year of the Switch 2. We look at the launch year of Switch 1. There are many game-specific Nintendo Directs in that year. I think that is going to continue, and not just with the ones we've gotten so far. I still think there needs to be a little bit more. Maybe it will just be a Metroid Prime 4 Direct, but maybe there could even be something beyond that for another game that's coming out this year. And then something else I think about here is this demo we're going to see of Prime 4 at this Nintendo of Canada event. Is it going to be the exact same thing we saw in the Treehouse back in April, or is it going to be something new? This would be 4 months later. You would think they would have either a more up-to-date build, or just be willing to show us something new. And it's not even just this Canada event. Gamescom is coming up, PAX is coming up. There are multiple events where Nintendo can take part where there is a lot of opportunity to show off this game. And so the question is, are we going to start to see Nintendo reveal more about Prime 4 before these events, or afterwards, or during? And that's tough to say. They might even show a new trailer for Prime 4 before these events, and still just give us that same demo we saw from the Treehouse events back in April. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.